Welcome to Austin Eras, the podcast that unravels Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and explores its potential future. Brought to you by Collective Advisors, Austin Eras takes you on a journey through the city's evolving landscape and rich history, offering insights into its dynamic past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm your host, Adam Flagg, and I'm joined here by Alyssia Palacios-Woods. She is a community builder and nonprofit leader. Currently, she spent the last 2.5 years in her role as executive director of Capital Idea, an Austin-based nonprofit that launched in 1998. Their mission is to lift working adults out of poverty and into living wage careers through education and career advancement. She has degrees from both St. Edward's University, her bachelor's, and a master's from the University of Texas. And we had the honor of meeting in 2017 when she was hired as president and CEO of the Austin Young Chamber of Commerce. The Austin Business Journal recognized her as a Profiles in Power nominee in 2017, and she currently serves on the Advisory Council for the New Philanthropist and the Regional Advisory Council for Austin Community College District. What stands out to me about Alyssia is that she always rises to the occasion and is a leader that shows and knows what she stands for in the Austin community. Alyssia has been on an inspirational path that other young professionals should take note of as she's worked her way up the ranks while being a skilled communicator, a fundraiser, and leader in the Austin area. What really strikes me about Alyssia, and I'm so glad you're here, is just that you really typify what I think someone moving to Austin might do, where they've lived, what they've done, how they've gone about it. You've just taken it to a whole nother level. And I think, well, first of all, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. It's happy to be here, and I feel very fortunate for all that you just read right there. Wow.
Yeah, well, when you look at it, right, it's pretty impressive. I think that that Austin dream of wanting to do something for others, I think your background in education, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, I think you're kind of hitting a stride. You're doing some really amazing things, and I'm just so impressed. Tell me a little bit about where you came from. You're not from Austin originally, right?
Correct. Not from Austin. Grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas. Child number 4 out of 5. Deep roots in the University of Texas in my family.
Okay.
I always thought, no, I'm not going to go to UT. I'm not going to go to Austin. All my siblings are doing that, but I ended up here anyway. So
you did both and a little extra.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me about your first Austin memory. What you obviously were in Texas. What brought you here?
Well, I mean, I'd have to go way back. My mom actually got her PhD from the University of Texas. She was a full-time educator at the time with 5 kids, and so she only worked on her PhDs during the summer. So we would come up during the summer, and they would rent a little place called White's Place, which is right near the new McCombs Business School.
Okay.
And we'd have a little apartment there, and my mom would go to classes. So my earliest memory is really walking UT campus and going to the Turtle Pond, right north of the tower. I don't know if you've been there, but there's all sorts of turtles that live there, and there was one that was so flat we used to call it Pancake. But that's some of my earliest memories of UT and of Austin really being ingrained here, coming up multiple years. It took her 10 years to get her PhD. So we were coming up quite often.
A lot. Yeah. And you're spending a whole summer here?
Yeah, a good amount of the summer. As we got older, it was a little bit different, but I don't know how they did it. Definitely a commitment, obviously, but really helped me get to know Austin a little bit and feel comfortable being here, too.
I've never heard of the Turtle Pond, by the way. That's the first time I've ever heard of this. So it still exists. Have you gone back, taking your kids there?
I haven't gone in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, but as far as I know, it's still there. It's just north of the tower.
I'm guessing Pancake's no longer there.
I don't know. I don't know what the lifespan of turtles is. I'm thinking it might still be there.
It could be a long time. You're right. So tennis also is something you got very involved in. Tell me a little bit about like your evolution of tennis and what that looked like. Coming from Corpus Christi, that doesn't seem like a tennis haven for people in Texas. So what was this all about?
You'd be surprised. I don't know. Corpus Christi had a really strong professional coaching staff across different clubs, and my siblings played tennis. So I started playing tennis when I was 3. And I would hit foam balls against a wall. I was in these little city clinics, and I just had an extreme passion for it. So I kept playing, and my parents kept supporting me in that. And so I was able to play tournaments, in elementary school, all through middle school, high school. I was on varsity, played tournaments locally, statewide, and even some national tournaments. And so that kind of landed me a spot on the St. Edward's tennis team, which is really exciting. And I had such a wonderful experience there playing D2.
Okay, so one thing that I really noticed a second ago is that you came to St. Edward's University. You're the first person we've had on the podcast that's a St. Ed's grad. You're a Hilltopper. Tell me a little bit more about that experience, because the thing I see is I drive by and I see the campus and it's right there. It's the heart of Austin. What was it like as a student to go there?
You're right, it is the heart of Austin, and it has the best view of downtown Austin when you're standing on the hilltop. I loved it there. I ended up there by happenstance, kind of had a late application, and tried out for the tennis team, and I thought, I'll just stay for 1 year and then transfer to UT, but I loved it so much I stayed all 4 years and played tennis all 4 years. Small class sizes, really great faculty, really great culture. Their motto when I was going there, I don't know if it still is, but it was learn to think, which kind of stops and make you think, what does that mean? But it's a humanities school, and so what it was really doing was encouraging you to kind of challenge the status quo and think about things differently. And I think that was really instrumental, and I can see how that type of curriculum and that humanities approach has really made me the leader that I am, and how I look at problems and how we could think differently about some of those.
Yeah, because your degree from school has nothing to do with what you do today, but the humanities element must have really kind of shaped how you do that.
That's true. Career trajectories can be very different, Adam. Yeah, I went to school for graphic design and then got my master's in advertising, but yeah, you're right, very different. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer. I wanted to work at Pixar, do all those things, but somewhere in the middle of it, I thought, well, I want to give back, and I really feel a strong passion for that.
So you really liked St. Edward's, you're south of the lake, and then you decide to go north of the lake, and you say, hey, I need University of Texas as part of my degree as well.
Correct.
So you go there, you get a master's in advertising. What was that experience? If you compare the two between St. Ed's and UT, what were the differences that you noticed?
Well, for me, going for my master's was nice because you still have smaller class sizes. It's such a prestigious school. I think so many of their degree plans are so recognized nationally, and I went for the Texas Creative Program, so advertising, and it was the same. It was very recognized, but really great cohort of people, really great strong faculty. I had a great experience. I lament that the new communications building is way nicer than when I went there. There's more windows and it's really fun, but I had a great experience there as well. Only 2 years there going through my master's, but really enjoyed just getting to know the people there, getting ingrained in, that kind of bigger University of Texas culture and football games and all that comes with being part of such a nationally recognized school.
Yeah, no, and they're at the top right now. It feels like UT is everywhere. So I think you go from south of the river, south of the lake, whatever you want to call it, north, you go to the campus, and then personally you're moving further north as time goes on too, which is really a common thread when you think about people coming to Austin. Mm-hmm. You get done with school, you got to find somewhere to live and someplace to kind of really set your roots down. You had kids, pretty young age, and so you move further north.
Correct. There's been a progressive northward movement for my life. In fact, my tennis coach at the time was like, when am I going to come visit you in Dallas? Because you've gone so far north, but currently in Round Rock, so haven't made it quite that far yet. Okay,
so you're up there. You got involved in the nonprofit and fundraising space, did a few things. We crossed paths 7 years ago. You interviewed for the Austin Young Chamber of Commerce role, and that organization had been around, maybe 8 years? Had a couple, I think 2 executive directors prior to you, and you showed up and knocked all of our socks off when you interviewed for the role. And we went, where has Alyssia been hiding? You literally just kind of showed up, and we were just amazed at the kind of skill and knowledge, and I think just what you wanted, and you knew how you wanted to lead in the city, and it was really apparent. So tell me a little bit about the Austin Young Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, I've been there a long time and kind of seen different things over the years, but what drew you to want to apply for the job, and what drew you to kind of love that job and continue in it?
Yeah, I was working in Georgetown at the time, and I had just had my 3rd kid, and I was like, well, this might be a good time to look for a new job. So I did, but I wanted something that would challenge me professionally, that would provide growth, that would be flexible and family friendly as a mom of 3. So I was very strategic in my search, and the Austin Young Chamber rose to the top, and I cold turkey applied. I didn't know anybody there, but I did, and I ended up landing the position, and it was such an experience, such a opportunity to grow as a leader, to build my network, to get involved in the different interconnected issues that are shaping Austin. And the Young Chamber itself, the mission is to support young professionals into leadership roles and to give them a voice throughout the city. And that's exactly what it did for me as the leader of that organization, but to bring a cohort of people together who are generally early career, mid-career, who may not have the ability to express their opinions and or to lead teams and or to lead their organizations, but through the Young Chamber to have that opportunity and for businesses to invest in their young professionals to do that. So it was fantastic. I spent 5 years there, 2 of them before the pandemic. So, during the pandemic, it felt like an extra 10 years. But I stayed there through that, and it was fantastic. And we had such a great team. We had such a group of high-performing individuals, people who were kind of like me, wanted to commit, had a vision, wanted to give back, wanted to learn, wanted to grow. And so when you have, 400 or 500 people in that realm, you can get a lot of things done. And we really did. We got a lot done during that time.
Yeah, so working in the pandemic, you just skated through it.
I did. I don't know if everyone wants to relive it, but
we can drop. But I mean, to run an organization with members,
yeah,
and then do things that didn't exactly involve getting together in person for quite a while had to have been a challenge.
It was a challenge, absolutely. And part of it when the pandemic hit was how to lead with empathy and know that people were going through things. Obviously chamber membership isn't a priority. We've just had this impact to the world, and nobody knows how this is going to end and what's going to happen next. And so on one hand, it was supporting our members through that, showing empathy, trying to determine their needs. And then on the other side, in a leadership role, connecting with other leaders throughout Central Texas and trying to align resources, identify big concerns and needs, and get people what they need and help them to continue to either reopen safely or to continue operations safely. But a lot definitely to do during that time. But I learned that there wasn't anybody who had gone through a pandemic before. So we were all learning kind of side by side. And that was really impactful too as a leader in how you address challenges and kind of work together.
And it wasn't exactly a 9-to-5 role either. I saw you plenty after 5 o'clock at these different events, networking things. I mean, what was a day in the life of running a young professional nonprofit organization like?
Yeah, and I'll add to that, running that as a mom of 3 young children. It was very tricky, but it was a lot of fun. So I'm a late night person anyway, so we had a lot of committee meetings. We had a lot of events in the evenings, loved those. And so I just start my day later, flex hours for myself and my staff to make sure that we can take care of ourselves and make sure we get the time off and the rest that we need, but also to lean into our work and do some really good work. So a day in the life, wake up maybe a little later, get some breakfast, go into the office, meet with staff, coordinate meetings, meet with committee members, plan large-scale events. We put on several large-scale events. You think about an organization that is committed to bringing people together. And so there's a lot of work that goes into that, so a lot of coordination as well.
So if you look back on those 5 years, were there any really memorable moments or really big achievements that you felt that you look back on and go, I wish I could relive that again. I wish I could see that happen.
I think definitely many great moments. Lead Summit rises to the top. Lead Summit was the first conference for young professionals in Central Texas, and we were able to put on the first annual and continue that annually. And that was really profound to have a committee that comes in and develops content that we want our peers to hear, that we're listening to our peers that they want to hear, and that we're bringing in a diverse array of speakers to present from across industry, across backgrounds, lived experiences. I think that it's harder to do that, but it's more worthwhile to make sure you have people like you mentioned earlier, where was this girl? Where did we find her? I was in Georgetown, but I looked at the Young Chamber as an opportunity to pull out leaders like that and give them a chance for their voice to be heard and give them a chance to shine as well.
That's incredible. It really is. So I'm so proud of the work that you've done. We're going to go to break right now. I'm here with Alyssia Palacios-Woods, and she's sharing about her life and her experience here in Austin. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the present, and we'll just have a word from our sponsors right now.
Sounds good.
Calling all Austin business professionals and community leaders. Revitalize your after-work plans, and let's kick off a new tradition with the Austin Social Circuit. Join us for an evening of networking, great food and drinks, and even better company. Expand your circle, enjoy a laid-back vibe, and connect with like-minded Austinites. It's all happening the first Thursday of each month, with locations alternating between North and South Austin to keep things exciting. This initiative is powered by Collective Advisors. Find out the location of our next gathering and learn more by following Collective Advisors on Instagram and LinkedIn. Bring a friend, share the fun, and strengthen our Central Texas community. See you there, Austin.
And we're back at the Austin Eras podcast. We're back with Alyssia Palacios-Woods. She's sharing a lot of her experience and things that she's done. We just talked about kind of your past. Now we're talking about the present. You are at Capital Idea. You're the executive director there. I went to your website. I looked at a few things. You probably know these statistics by heart, but I'll just say this. They're astounding. And I'll share them, and then I'll share my thoughts, and you can go on forever, I'm sure, because you see this all the time and you really see the impact of what you're doing. But these things were a little bit alarming to me. I have to admit, the Brookings Institute says Austin has seen the nation's second highest increase in suburban poverty since 2000. 24% of all Travis County children live in poverty, 27% of children under the age of 5. It takes an income of at least twice the federal poverty level for families and individuals in Austin to make ends meet. These statistics are alarming.
They are.
It truly is. And we see the bright, shiny buildings being built. We see the cranes. We see all these amazing awards we win and all these incredible things as the city grows. But we see real estate prices. We see what life looks like around here. There's got to be a downside to it. And clearly, Austin has left some people behind. What drew you to Capital Idea? You got that job. I'm sure you knocked that interview out of the park. You've been there almost 2.5 years now. What drew you there, and what's that impact look like? What does your day look like now running Capital Idea?
What drew me to Capital Idea? I was on the board of directors, actually, before I was on the staff as executive director, and it's a high-impact organization. I mean, you can directly draw a line from the work being done to the outcomes produced by the organization. So people who are working a job where they have no upward trajectory, who are reconnected to school, they get it paid for by Capital Idea, they complete, graduate, and they're able to move into a job that'll pay them 250% more than what they were making when they started. So it's significant, with an upward trajectory in their career. And so, even joining the nonprofit world over 10, 12 years ago, I have a big value in helping people. And with the way I was raised, I know education is a significant way to improve outcomes for people. And so for me, working in Capital Idea is fulfillment and a way to help those around me, help people like my family and others like us. So huge impact on Austin, Texas. But you mentioned those statistics, and it is alarming. And Austin is a very educated city, bachelor's degrees and higher credentials. And so in order to make it in this city, you really need some type of education. And so that's what we're doing at Capital Idea, moving people into high demand careers.
So we hear a lot about the Texas Workforce Commission. We hear a lot about these different job skills and training. I mean, UT, Austin Community College, they're all working in conjunction to create more programs for higher demand jobs. It seems like there's constantly this battle between, we have all these great high skilled jobs, but we don't have the people to fill them. So Capital Idea is helping fill that role in a sense. How else are we dealing with this in society? I mean, Capital Idea can only do so much. What are we doing? What from your observations? I mean, you come from an education family. You mentioned it a few times, but your mother, tell me a little bit about your family background with education, because I think that might paint a little bit more of the picture here.
Sure. Both of my parents attended community college, first to graduate, put themselves through school, went on to get their bachelor's, went on to get their master's, and my mom, her PhD.
Okay.
And so huge investment in education. And now my dad's a business owner and a professor. He's I think 30 years now at Del Mar College in Corpus Christi. He's been a professor. It might even be 40. It's a long time. And then my mother retired 35 years as a public educator for early childhood education and now travels around the nation and the world kind of sharing best practices of early childhood education and advocating for teachers and early childhood. So Education, yes, is ingrained in my background. You grow up thinking about it, but it's true. And you've seen the impact on my family. You see the impact on other families. And so, there's a lot of work to do. Problems like this aren't solved by one entity alone. It takes a collaborative effort. It takes interconnected systems because we have different issues at play here. When you talk about poverty, living below the federal poverty guidelines, there's food insecurity, there's transportation barriers, there's housing barriers and supply, and then there's the education component, there's childcare, and so there's a lot of things that have to work together to help somebody kind of rise above, move through into middle class. At Capital Idea, we're really finding people who are motivated to go back to school. Their average age is 27. Okay. Maybe they've worked a few jobs. They're not going anywhere. They really need to provide for their families. And so we are showing them a pathway. And when you think about higher education, there's a lot of systemic barriers at play. These are very complicated systems. And when you look at how to apply for college, what does financial aid forms look like, who do I talk to, advisors, registration for classes, enrollment, there's a lot of things that people who have never been to college before, maybe first in their family go to college, don't understand how to complete all those applications and to follow through those processes. And so we guide them through that. We guide them through how to do it. We let them know they're doing it, but we're kind of saying, go here, go there, do that. And so they're able to do it. And they're working towards associate degrees. That'll take them on average 3 years to complete, but then they'll come out with a great degree. And healthcare is one of our high demand ones, and another one is IT. There's some in advanced manufacturing and trades.
Yeah, so these jobs, people are going out and going, hey, I only could get this job before, now I can get this. And it sounds like you're working with local employers too. Your organization, you're really figuring out those gaps.
Correct. Yeah, there are gaps, two-pronged really in Capital Idea. One side is reaching deep into community and finding people who maybe thought, I can't do this, I don't know how, and saying, we can show you a way, you can do this. And on the other side, talking to employers and really staying current on what are your hiring needs? What does that pay right now? What are the benefits? What is the career pathway? And making sure we do right by people by moving them into good jobs, good careers, really, that they can be in for a long time. So right now, one of our top careers is a registered nurse, dental hygienist, sonographer, x-ray technician, cybersecurity. Those are really great careers. And we're talking about local people into local careers. And so some of the other higher education systems might bring people in, educate them, and then people might move back out. They move all over the nation, all over the world. But we're looking at people who are local and want to stay local. And so they help fill our local workforce demands. That's amazing.
I mean, workforce demands, it's such a deficit, and it creates so many issues economically, including inflation, which then goes back and hurts people on the other side. So I think there's a lot to be said for what Capital Idea is doing. When you think about going from the Austin Young Chamber, where you had a small staff, a membership organization, to going to Capital Idea, that was a big step up. Capital Idea is a pretty big organization, is it not?
29 staff members, yes, plus our board of directors and our partners, yeah.
So I think that's a testament to your skills and your drive, but also a testament to what you mentioned, kind of this idea of the same training that all the members of the Austin Young Chamber were receiving. You were receiving it maybe tenfold in doing the job every day.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots to learn. It was a big adjustment going from the Young Chamber to Capital Idea. And any job's an adjustment. I always think it takes you 18 months to kind of really get a good feel for it. And working at Capital Idea, you're kind of in higher ed mode. So you're talking about semesters and, years. And so time moves pretty fast. 2.5 years it's been, but it feels like it went by really fast.
So I want to throw some fun questions at you. I want to talk a little bit more about the present. So here's one. I mean, if you could keep one weird thing about Austin that's still around, or something that went away, like what would that be? I always think keep Austin weird. I think most people might know this, but I always bring it up. Keep Austin Weird was an advertising campaign to keep local businesses in Austin. Is there local business, something like that you want back, or that you want to keep?
That I want to keep. I mean, Wetto's on South Congress. It's there, and I feel like it's doing really well. But when you look at the growth that's happened on South Congress, and the development, it looks beautiful. It looks great, but it's very different than it was 20 years ago. And Wetto's is one of my favorite. I feel like it's a great local establishment, and I hope it stays. It continues to thrive.
Tell us a little bit more about Wetto's.
Oh, gosh. So I had a group of people come in a couple of weeks ago. They were visiting us from the southwest region of the nation, and that's where we booked our event. We're like, okay, let's go eat at Hueros, and these are foodies, so you got to take them someplace good. But they have a private room, and it's delicious, good Mexican food.
Oh, you're pronouncing it so much better than I could ever. Okay, Guero''. Oh my gosh, Alyssia, yes, that is a legendary place. Okay, I was like, where are we talking? This is close to St. Ed's. You're so incredible.
It is near St. Ed's. That's right. That's right. Got to rule the R out.
Yeah. Hueros. See, we can practice. Okay, here's another place. What's your favorite under the radar place to take guests when they come to Austin? They're coming up from Corpus, coming from somewhere else. Where do you go?
Another Mexican place.
Okay.
I have taken people to El Chile, right off of Manor.
Okay.
And it's delicious. A couple salsas, really great pozole, really great tacos, and very easy at patio. Margaritas, obviously, but delicious.
Okay. All right. Last question until we change over and do a little bit different. What's exciting you about Austin right now? What do you and the family like to do? What are you excited about going forward as you kind of think about the city? As we get bigger, like what are these opportunities that maybe open up that you want more of?
That's an excellent question. You're right. The city is growing. So many cranes, so many things to do. I think that if you want to do something in Austin, there's always something to find. From ACL to Formula One to the Kite Festival to little festivals.
Yeah.
Lunar New Year, Dia de los Muertos, all of those things. So I look forward to those. Growing up here as a young family, we got out to those all the time. Now it's a little bit harder because, we got older kids and too many things going on with school events and activities. But those were the things that I think celebrate the vibrant culture of our city and that we continue to have and do well. And there's a lot of that growth happening too in the cities surrounding Austin. So the Round Rocks, Cedar Parks, the Georgetowns, and I think now it's great to kind of skip up to Georgetown or go out to Cedar Park or go down to San Marcos and really celebrate a lot of the things that are happening there. Georgetown has a Red Poppy Festival. If you haven't been to that, it's really fun on the square, and they have live music, and you just pull out a lawn chair, and it's like BYOB, I think, and it's just a really cool place. They have vendors out, so things like that I think happen both inside the city and without, that are really cool and pull people into different places. It is a Central Texas region, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It feels like, I was in San Antonio last weekend. I'll be up in Georgetown next weekend. It feels like we can just travel from place to place. It's nice to have that because each place has its own personality. Right, exactly. So you've been in Round Rock for a number of years. Correct. What's the personality of Round Rock? For people that aren't really, maybe they're not listeners in Austin, how do you describe Round Rock? Yeah, I've been in Round Rock for 8 years, and Round Rock is, I think, very family-oriented is how I would describe it. What impresses me about Round Rock is how the city is always planning some really cool family event. Like one year for Mother's Day, we did a mud run around Old Settlers Park. And I was like, strap up kids, we're going to the family-friendly mud run on Mother's Day. They were like, what? But we had a great time. We lost a couple shoes, but that's okay in the mud. But they're always planning neat things. They're doing music in the park. They're doing movies in the park. They do this one hysterical event. So Round Rock Donuts is pretty famous for their donuts. They do a 5K run, and it's affiliated with Round Rock Donuts, but you run 2.5K, and then you have to eat a dozen donuts, and then you run the other 2.5. Hold on, a dozen? Yeah. What are the size of these donuts? Oh, they're regular size donuts. Kids can do the minis, but adults do the full size donuts. My husband did it 1 year. And then they have trash cans along the way in the second 2.5K. Yeah. Just in case. I can imagine. But yeah, it's hysterical. So there's really great pictures of that. And you get a completer shirt if you eat the dozen and then finish your run. A dozen donuts. I don't even think I've ever eaten a dozen at once. That would be nuts. I know. So it's fun. I think there's some fun energy to what they do. And if you haven't followed them on social media, like City of Round Rock, our social media team is pretty funny. Like they just have they create this culture of family friendly, not taking ourselves too seriously. Motto. You've got Kalahari up there too. We have Kalahari, Salt Lick, Round Rock Express. Mm-hmm. You have a rock that's round somewhere that you can actually, have you been to it? The Round Rock, yes. Yeah, it's like just in the middle of a creek, right? Correct, exactly. Maybe go to Kalahari instead. There's Dell. Dell was founded there in Round Rock, right. So we have the headquarters for Dell. But yeah, lots of things happening. I'm part of the Round Rock Chamber up there, and lots of good things happening in Round Rock.
So how do you think the experience feels different for someone in Round Rock versus someone that lives in Austin? You've done both. What does that, look like from your perspective as both a parent now, someone that maybe didn't have kids before? What is that like?
It's a great question. It's such a different experience with living single in Austin and with young kids in Austin versus older kids in Round Rock, more in suburbia. But I think no matter where you are, you have your places around you that you're always going to go to. So you have your parks, you have your restaurants, you kind of create like your nucleus of your home, and then you have all these places around you. But I think living in the suburbs like Round Rock and coming in, I think everything's so well connected now, even though we live outside of Austin. I mean, I'm in Austin almost every day for work or for other things that we're doing, driving around. And so I don't want to get into transportation, but we do have systems that connect the city when the traffic doesn't get us down.
Okay. All right. So we don't want to go there. We'll go there in a future episode about transportation. Let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
So capital idea, obviously you've made this an incredible career change. You've been there 2.5 years. You're looking at workforce development. What do you envision as the future of workforce development in Austin? We see careers changing. We're seeing in-demand jobs. We're still a tech hub in so many ways. What does this whole thing look like in 10 years or 20 years?
It's another great question. I think there's such industry diversity in Austin, and I think that's intentional, and that's a good thing, and that was part of the reason why I think we were able to bounce back so quickly after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Compared to other major metro areas, our diversity of industries. I don't think healthcare is going away when you talk about in-demand jobs and what the future holds for needs. Mobility and infrastructure, there's $25 billion of projects planned for Central Texas, transportation, airport expansion, so many things. And so when I talk about workforce, there's definitely some work to do to make sure we have a local workforce that's trained for people who want those careers and those jobs in doing that. So, the future definitely holds that. I'm hopeful Project Connect will continue to, obviously it will build out. I hope one day we have light rail, right? My dream is that, my son can hop onto a light rail or a train in Round Rock and drive it all the way to UT campus. And then you don't have to buy him an apartment or rent an apartment down there or, give him a car that is interconnected like some of the other cities like Boston and DC, New York, where you're able to kind of live anywhere in the region and get anywhere in the region.
I like that you're already thinking about college expenses with a freshman in high school.
It's real. It's coming.
So one other thing we've kind of talked about is the regional connectivity between Austin and San Antonio, super region. There's this discussion of that. I mean, I'm excited maybe a Major League Baseball team wants to come to Austin, but the question is, does it actually go to Austin or does it go somewhere between Austin and San Antonio? So this whole thing is going to change a lot too. How does the workforce of San Antonio and Austin, what might that look like as we come together more there?
Right. Well, you're already seeing even in people who live in Austin work outside of Austin and vice versa. People work outside of Austin and or live outside of Austin and come into Austin. And so it's the same thing with San Antonio. You have people moving in and out. There's people who commute back and forth all the time. And so that's already happening. It's how do we make sure that we as a super region are ready for that and can promote that and can support that. So nobody wants to sit on I-35 between San Antonio and Austin for an hour and a half or however long it takes at the beginning or end of a workday. But how do we create systems and infrastructure that can support that? And I mean, talk about like past driving from San Antonio to Austin. It didn't used to be like this constant, something was built up in every mile along the way. It used to be like just the outlets and there was nothing around there. But now it is just
constant.
Yeah, it's a steady development from one to the other. And so this super region is really important, and there's a lot of work to be done in that to connect us.
All right. So Alyssia, one question I like to ask all of the guests is, what is it going to take to keep you in Austin for the long haul? Let's imagine your kids, they grow up, they graduate, they do their thing. You've got your great job, but we become maybe more dynamic, work from home, work from anywhere, those kinds of things. What's going to keep you in Austin? Austin's been a great city, but obviously the dynamics of it are changing. And we saw what's happening with kids and poverty and what's happening in different families. Why Austin?
I think I can answer that from a what's in Austin's control and what's not in Austin's control kind of standpoint. But what's in Austin's control is cost of living.
Yeah.
I think that we'll continue to have challenges there. grateful to be a homeowner in the area, but also as we look ahead, like maybe I won't want as big of a home. What will it look like to buy a new home? And that's tricky right now. And I think the market has kind of cooled down a bit since it was really difficult a couple years ago. There's some challenges there, I think, personally. But then what's out of Austin's control, this weather, heat in the summer, tornado warnings. I mean, some of these things that you don't experience in other areas of the world. And then also out of Austin's control is, where my kids end up. And whether or not they want me around, I don't know. Yeah. but I think that has something to play in it too. And you're right, with remote work, you have to think, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? Or anywhere in the nation, where would you live? And so that wasn't something we thought about 10 years ago. But now it's a reality.
It is.
So, but, I think the culture of Austin, my husband and I like to stay active, play tennis, pickleball, bowling, like all of these things that we like to be involved in. We want to make sure we find people who are here that we can relate to, who are like-minded, and that there's facilities that we can do those things at.
Alyssia, one of the lessons I think I've taken from chatting with you today is just how well that you've really utilized leadership, both the leadership skills and training, but also I think the leadership that you've learned over the years and really utilize that to take a next step, take that next level step each time. And it's not just been one step, it's been like 5 or 6. And you've done it in a way that I think is, and I said it in kind of the intro, in a way that I think is inspirational. And to me, I want to know where this really comes from. I know that you have some skills in tennis, you're a captain, and this just came to me. I recently heard that you were inducted into the St. Edward's University Hall of Fame for your tennis skills. You're the first ever female tennis player to be inducted. This has all been hiding. I've known you for a long time. I didn't know any of this really until recently. How did this all come about, and how does leadership tie into what you did on the tennis court?
Yes, I guess I can add that to my LinkedIn, but
you should.
It's tennis, any organized sport, but tennis for me is really instrumental because you're in a team environment, you're working with others, you have to coordinate effort, you have to support each other. And also with tennis and with all sports, you're in high pressure situations. And so a lot rides on a point, a lot rides on a match. And so I learned through those moments how to focus, mindfulness and commitment, dedication, motivation, all those things kind of came through my leadership roles in tennis. But also, no matter where you are, you can have a leadership role. And I think that's important kind of for people to hear and to take away.
Yeah,
like you can step up to be a leader no matter where you are, no matter what organization you're in, no matter what team you're in. And that's really important for me. I've always been motivated to be a leader. And so I would always kind of raise my hand and say, yeah, I want to do that. One of the things that I did early on in my career was join a board of directors. And, that early experience working on a board, understanding Robert's Rules of Order and voting and financials and all of those pieces, decision making at that level, that contributes to leadership knowledge that you have. And so we haven't talked about it, but I think it's important to mention that you can gain skills both inside and outside of your job and throughout your life, depending on what you're involved in.
So raising your hand and agreeing to be a part of something is just the first step.
Correct.
And leadership comes with it as you show up more, is what I'm hearing. So I also want to talk a little bit about regionalism and the leadership that Capital Idea and the work you're doing here. So I thought the Capital Idea was only based in working with people in Travis County, but you're actually in 5 counties: Hayes, Williamson, Travis, Caldwell, and Bastrop. I know cost of living is obviously a huge factor in Travis County, but people are moving further and further out. Can you talk about how Capital Idea is navigating this? Because one area could be totally different than another area.
That's exactly right. People are moving outside of the urban core. It's harder to afford to live in the urban core. And so likewise, Capital Idea has had to think about how do we make sure that we can meet the needs of the people in our region. And so you're right, we are serving this 5-county area. We work very closely with Austin Community College District as the primary academic institution that our students will attend. And so one of the things we always look at is where is a student in proximity to potential classes, because we're paying for them to go to school. And we're also supporting them in any wraparound services as well. We want to connect them to resources in the community, that they might need. And so for any given person, that might be transportation, childcare, rent or mortgage, food insecurity. And so, but there are resources in our community, but a lot of times those are hidden or hard to find. And so we want to make sure that our career navigators, or the ones who work with our students, that our career navigators can share that information with them, and that our students can access the resources that they need based on where they're living. Definitely Austin-Travis County has a lot of resources and support, but the neighboring counties are still kind of building that, because more and more people, I mean, you're seeing all the statistics about how Williamson County is one of the fastest growing counties, Hayes County very close behind, and so definitely those counties are looking at how do we start to help people as well.
I'm sure the property taxes, some of the ways that they collect the revenue, are still catching up to what Travis County's had for a long time.
Exactly, and so they're investing now in the people, and they have been, but looking at how do we continue to do this? How do we increase support? What does that look like? And at the same time, you have new employers coming into town and expansions of local businesses coming in who are there, and so they're looking, like we are, at both sides of the coin. Okay, there's people who are moving here who need good jobs, and we have these employers who are here who also need good, great, qualified, skilled workers. And so how do we match these two together? So Capital Idea is here to help.
Wonderful. Well, Alyssia Palacios-Woods, Executive Director at Capital Idea, thank you so much for joining the Austin Eras podcast. I'm Adam Flagg. Thank you for listening. Hope you tune in again.
Thank you.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.